All right, let's dive into the Colossus of Rhodes, one of those ancient wonders that just captures the imagination.
Oh, definitely does.
You know, it really does. Our mission today is to uncover the true story behind this legendary bronze giant, separating fact from fiction. Now, we've all seen those dramatic images of the Colossus straddling the harbor
Yeah,
entrance,
right.
with those ships sailing beneath its mighty legs.
Right.
But hold on, that might not be the whole story.
Yeah, that image of the Colossus straddling the harbor, it's more of a modern interpretation.
Okay.
The reality might have been quite different. But before we get to all that, let's rewind and understand why the Colossus was built in the first place. It all starts with the story of resilience, a year-long siege, and a whole lot of bronze.
Okay, so set the scene for us. What was going on in Rhodes that led to the creation of this monumental statue?
Imagine this. It's the 4th century BC, and the island of Rhodes is a thriving center of trade and commerce. But they've got this powerful enemy at their doorstep, Demetrius, the first of Macedon. He's got a massive army, a fearsome navy, and his sights set on conquering Rhodes.
So this Demetrius guy, he was not messing around. What happened next?
Well, Demetrius launches this epic siege against Rhodes, hoping to starve them into submission. It goes on for an entire year. I mean, can you imagine? With fierce battles and incredible acts of defiance from the Rhodians, they even managed to repel a night attack using captured siege towers to bolster their defenses.
Wow, a year-long siege? That takes some serious grit.
Yeah.
But the Rhodians held their ground.
They did. Eventually, Demetrius is forced to withdraw, leaving behind a ton of abandoned siege equipment. And here's where the Rhodians show their ingenuity. They take all that leftover weaponry, sell it off, and decide to use the funds to create something truly spectacular. A giant statue of their patron god, Helios, the sun god.
Now that's what I call a power move.
Right.
Turning your enemy's weapons into a monument to your own strength.
Exactly.
So tell me about this Colossus. How did they go about building something so enormous?
Well, they commissioned a sculptor named Chairs of Lindus, who was already known for his skill in creating large-scale statues. It was a massive undertaking. The Colossus was said to be around 33 meters high, which is over 100 feet, making it the tallest statue in the ancient world at that time.
I'm trying to picture that, 100 feet. That's about the height of a 10-story building, right?
That's right. And they built it using the bronze and iron from Demetrius's abandoned weapons. It's fascinating to think about the symbolism there, transforming instruments of war into a symbol of victory and peace.
Talk about poetic justice. But how on earth did they manage to construct something so colossal with the technology they had back then?
Well, the exact techniques are still debated, but it's believed they use a combination of iron tie bars for internal support, bronze plates to form the outer skin, and then filled the interior with stone blocks to give it weight and stability.
Okay, so I'm picturing those iron tie bars acting like a skeleton, holding the whole structure together. And then the bronze plates would be like a skin, creating that smooth, gleaming surface.
Exactly.
But a statue that tall, even with all those stones inside, wouldn't it be incredibly top-heavy? How did they keep it from toppling over?
That's where the foundation comes in. They would have to create a massive, incredibly stable base to support all that weight. Some even theorize they used a captured siege tower as scaffolding during the construction. Imagine the irony of a weapon of war becoming a tool to build a symbol of peace.
Mind-blowing. I also read that one theory suggests they cast the statue in sections horizontally, burying each completed part under a mound of earth before moving on to the next. Can you imagine the precision and patience that would be required?
Oh, absolutely. It would have been a monumental effort, taking them 12 years to complete. But finally, the Colossus was finished. The dedication text speaks of reaching to Olympus, pacifying the waves of war, and being a beacon of freedom for all who sailed to Rhodes. They saw it as a symbol of their resilience, their connection to the gods, and their dominance in the region.
Standing tall, gleaming in the Mediterranean sun, a testament to human ingenuity. It must have been absolutely awe-inspiring.
Indeed, it was a sight to behold. But sadly, the Colossus's moment of glory didn't last forever. About 54 years after its completion, a devastating earthquake struck Rhodes.
Oh no. And a giant bronze statue probably isn't the most stable structure during an earthquake.
Exactly. The Colossus couldn't withstand the tremors and snapped at the knees, collapsing onto the land with a thunderous crash.
It fell on land.
Yeah.
Not into the harbor like in those popular depictions.
That's right, it landed on the shore. But even in its fallen state, people traveled from all over the ancient world just to marvel at its immense size. There are accounts of people measuring the thumb of the statue and peering into the vast caverns within its broken limbs. Can you imagine that?
Wow. What an image. A fallen giant, still so impressive even in ruin. But wait, the story doesn't end there, right? What happened next?
Well, the fallen Colossus remained on the shore of Rhodes for centuries. And then a powerful ruler steps onto the scene with a proposition that could have changed everything.
Welcome back. So we left off with the Colossus lying in pieces after that devastating earthquake. It's hard to imagine a statue that massive just lying there on the ground for centuries. But then you mentioned a powerful ruler enters the story.
Right, it's the 3rd century BC, and Ptolemy III Euergetes, the pharaoh of Egypt, offers to fund the rebuilding of the Colossus.
What a generous offer. That would have been incredible. Did they accept?
Well, you'd think so, right? It would seem like a no-brainer. But surprisingly, the Rhodians refused.
Wait, what? Why on earth would they turn down such an amazing opportunity?
Well, remember the Oracle of Delphi?
Uh-huh.
They consulted the oracle for guidance, and the response they received was ominous. It warned that rebuilding the Colossus might anger Helios, the sun god.
So they were spooked by a prophecy. It's fascinating how much weight the pronouncements of oracles carried back then.
Yeah, it really speaks volumes about the role religion and superstition played in their decision-making. They must have been truly fearful of incurring the wrath of Helios.
Yeah, I guess you don't want to mess with the sun god, especially after you've already experienced a major earthquake.
Yeah.
So the Colossus remained in ruins.
Yes. For centuries it lay there, a constant reminder of Rhodes' past glory and the power of nature. Travelers and writers from across the ancient world marveled at its remains.
Yeah.
Imagine standing beside its massive fallen hand, its bronze fingers larger than a person.
It's almost beyond comprehension. But eventually, the story takes another dramatic turn, doesn't it?
Indeed, in the 7th century AD, Rhodes is conquered by Arab forces. And according to some accounts, this is when the Colossus meets its final demise.
Okay, so this is where things get a little hazy. What happened to the Colossus under Arab rule?
Well, according to the writings of a chronicler named Theophanes, the Arab general Muawiyah I decided to make some money off of the fallen giant.
Okay.
He supposedly had the bronze remains broken down, sold to a Jewish merchant, and loaded onto 900 camels to be carried away.
900 camels. That's almost impossible to picture. We're talking about a truly colossal amount of bronze. But hold on. Are we sure this account is reliable? It does sound a bit like a tall tale.
That's a great point. Theophanes was writing centuries after the event supposedly happened, so there's a chance the story might have become a bit embellished over time.
So maybe it's a case of history being rewritten by the victors, so to speak.
Yeah.
Exaggerating the destruction of this iconic symbol to emphasize their dominance.
That's certainly a possibility. Remember, conquering a place and melting down their most legendary landmark would send a pretty strong message. It's a tactic that's been used throughout history.
It makes you wonder if the 900 camels loaded with bronze is more myth than reality. What do other historians say about this?
Well, some historians argue that while the Arabs might have removed some of the bronze, they probably didn't take it all.
Okay.
Remember, the Colossus had been lying there for centuries, exposed to the elements, to earthquakes, to scavengers. It's likely that much of the bronze had already deteriorated or been repurposed by previous rulers.
So the true story might be a combination of factors. Some natural decay, some repurposing over time, and perhaps some removal by the Arabs. We may never know for sure.
That's the beauty and the frustration of history. We're left to piece together the story from fragments of evidence and often conflicting accounts. But that doesn't mean we can't learn from those fragments and use them to paint a picture of the past.
Exactly. And speaking of painting a picture, let's talk about those iconic images of the Colossus straddling the harbor entrance. You mentioned earlier that the reality might have been quite different. What makes you say that?
Well, for starters, if it were straddling the harbor during construction, it would have made the harbor completely inaccessible for years. Logistically, it just wouldn't have been feasible. And think about it, if it fell into the harbor, it would have blocked the entire entrance. There's no way the Rhodians would have been able to remove something that massive from the water.
That makes sense. Plus, all those accounts of people visiting the ruins mention them being on land, not in the water.
Yeah.
So if those images are wrong, what did the Colossus actually look like?
Well, that's another mystery. There's no definitive description of its pose from ancient sources. Some researchers suggest it might have been modeled after statues of Helios depicted on Rhodian coins. In these depictions, he's standing upright, with one hand shielding his eyes, almost like he's saluting the sun.
Okay, so a more natural, less gravity-defying pose. That makes a lot more sense. But what about that giant torch it's often shown holding?
The torch is probably a later addition to the story. While the dedication text mentions a torch of freedom, it's most likely metaphorical, representing Rhodes as a beacon of liberty and enlightenment.
So no giant flaming torch lighting up the harbor every night. That's probably for the best. I can imagine that being a bit of a fire hazard.
Indeed. Now, there's one more big question we haven't addressed. Where did the Colossus actually stand? The exact location remains a subject of debate.
Okay, so we've debunked the straddling the harbor myth. But if it wasn't there, where was it?
Well, there are two main contenders. The most popular theory places it near the entrance of the Mandrake Harbor. There are some intriguing sandstone blocks and curved marble pieces in that area that could have been part of its base.
That makes sense. But you said there were two contenders. What's the other possibility?
Some experts believe the Colossus might have been located on the Acropolis of Rhodes, the highest point in the city overlooking the harbor. There are the ruins of a large temple up there, and some archaeologists believe it might have been a sanctuary dedicated to Helios.
Interesting. So the Colossus could have been standing atop this temple, gazing out over the city and the sea.
It's certainly a dramatic and fitting image. The temple's foundation is massive and could have supported the weight of the statue. Plus, imagine the view from up there, truly breathtaking.
Wow, that would have been incredible. So we have two potential locations, both with their own intriguing evidence. Is there any way to know for sure which one is correct?
Unfortunately, not without more definitive archaeological discoveries. It's possible that someday we'll find something that settles the debate once and for all. But for now, it remains a tantalizing mystery.
This is what I love about history. Sometimes the most compelling stories are the ones with unanswered questions. It makes you want to keep digging, keep exploring.
Exactly. Now, even though we may never know all the answers, one thing is for sure. The Colossus of Rhodes continues to captivate our imaginations. But its story doesn't end with its fall in the ancient world. There have actually been numerous attempts to bring the Colossus back to life in modern times.
And that's a whole other chapter in the story. I can't wait to hear about it. That's where we'll pick up in part 3 of our deep dive into the Colossus of Rhodes. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Colossus of Rhodes. It's amazing how this ancient wonder continues to inspire people even centuries after its fall. You mentioned there have been attempts to bring it back to life in modern times. That sounds fascinating. Tell me more.
You're right. The idea of resurrecting the Colossus, it's been a recurring dream for many. Over the years, there have been some pretty ambitious proposals, some even bordering on, the fantastical.
Okay, I'm all ears. What kind of proposals are we talking about?
Well, a few years ago, there was this German artist named Gert Hoff, and he envisioned this massive light sculpture using recycled weapons from around the world. It would have been this striking symbol of peace and transformation, with the Colossus glowing at night, visible for miles.
That sounds incredible. A beacon of hope rising from the ashes of conflict. Did that project ever get off the ground?
Unfortunately, no. It faced a number of challenges, mostly related to funding, and of course, the age-old question of where to actually build it.
Right. We still haven't pinpointed the exact location of the original Colossus. But wasn't there another proposal, one that actually aimed to rebuild it, straddling the harbor entrance?
Yes, there was a proposal put forward by this group of European architects a few years back. They envisioned a truly colossal structure, 5 times larger than the original, with a cultural center, a library, even a lighthouse inside.
Wow, talk about ambitious. It would have been a modern marvel, a tourist attraction unlike any other. But hold on, didn't we already establish that straddling the harbor is practically impossible from a logistical and engineering standpoint?
Exactly. It would be incredibly disruptive to build, and it would raise all sorts of concerns about, safety and practicality. So while the vision was grand, it ultimately proved to be more of a pipe dream.
It seems like rebuilding the Colossus, whether as a faithful replica or a modern reimagining, it comes with a whole host of challenges.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is it even a good idea? Wouldn't it be more responsible to focus on preserving existing historical sites rather than trying to recreate the past?
That's a valid point. Preserving our heritage should always be a top priority. But I also think there's something to be said for, the power of inspiration, for reimagining the past in a way that speaks to the present. The Colossus, even in its ruined state, it continues to fascinate and inspire us.
I agree. It's a reminder of human ingenuity and our capacity to dream big. But I guess the question is, if we were to rebuild it today, what would a modern Colossus represent? What message would we want it to convey to the world?
That's the most important question. If it were to be rebuilt, it shouldn't be simply a replica of the past, It should be a symbol for our time, reflecting our values, our hopes, and our aspirations.
I love that idea. What a thought-provoking challenge for modern architects and artists. To create something that captures the spirit of the original Colossus, while also speaking to the challenges and opportunities of our own era.
Indeed. And who knows, maybe someday, with new technologies and a shared vision, we might see a new Colossus rise again. But it would need to be approached thoughtfully, respectfully, and with a clear purpose.
This has been an incredible journey. From its creation as a symbol of victory to its fall and the enduring mysteries that surround it, the Colossus of Rhodes truly is a testament to the enduring power of human ambition and imagination.
It reminds us that even the most awe-inspiring creations are ultimately subject to the forces of time and nature. But the stories we tell about them, the ways in which they continue to inspire us, those endure.
So, to our listeners, we leave you with this final thought. If you had the chance to rebuild the Colossus today, what would it look like? What would it symbolize? And where would you put it?
Let those questions be the starting point for your own deep dive into the fascinating world of the Colossus of Rhodes.
Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey through history. Until next time.